Recording in progress.
Hello everyone. I trust you folks can hear me. If you can hear me, just put it in the Q&A module, yes, so that I know that the audio system is working. Thank you. Okay. Kisa Hitchman. Okay. Ahmad. Very good. Thank you so much. And I think we still have a couple of minutes to start the webinar, so I'll just wait for 2 more minutes. Meanwhile, if you can let me know where are you joining from, that'll be really nice for me to know. Which city, which country. Yeah, one of you raised hand. Okay, let me see if I can uh, see the hand raised, but I think, oh, Ahmad is from Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. I have been to Riyadh. Been to Riyadh on a very tiny sort project. So I worked with a bank called Samba Bank. Yeah, if I remember well, the bank name. Okay. Where else are you guys from? Okay. Isha is from Kingston, Jamaica. That will be definitely in my travel plan. Someday I should be able to visit Jamaica. I've heard very, very interesting stories. Um, is it close to Cayman Islands or far? So I do have a client in Cayman Islands. Oh, it's close. Okay. Ashley is from Lotsville. Okay, good. Okay, nice. So we have about 45 people now. I think maybe, uh, where do you see the raised hand? That is something I'm not able to figure out. Where do I see the raised hand? Not very sure. Okay, I trust you are able to view my desktop as well, right? Should be working. Yeah. So I think we just crossed 50. That's nice. Okay. Maryland. Radhika is from Mumbai. Wow, very good. Okay. Kisa says a short plane ride to Cayman Islands. Okay, very good. Uh, Batsua is from Ghana. Okay, very good. South Carolina. Okay. Somehow the chat doesn't work. I don't know. So the best way for you to interact with me is to go and put something in the Q&A. I have been thinking of investing into that problem, but for some reason the chat doesn't seem to work for anyone. And in fact, last webinar also it did not work. Maybe there is some configuration which we are missing. So, but you still can interact through the Q&A tab. Okay. Arizona, Connecticut, South Carolina. Your chat is not working. Texas, okay. Good. Manisa is from where? Pune. Oh, wow, very good. KC. Wow, good. So we have pretty diversified audience today, which is very nice. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Ellen Mishra. I'm going to be the host for this short webinar. Many of you might have seen my name on LinkedIn or YouTube, been part of some of our old course as well. I am uh, a professional BA, so I earn my living through business analysis. I play the role of senior BA at Adaptive US and few other clients as well. I also train quite a lot of BAs. I have trained about 10,000 BAs over last 10 years plus. I also write a lot of books. So I think a couple of days back, one of our new book got released. So I'll show you that book cover as well. It's business analysis in different industry sectors. So I was a co-author in that book as well. I have been a part of IIBA exam team. I have been a part of IIBA standards writing committee, and I typically speak once or twice in a year on IIBA webinars as well. So let's get going and see what is there in store for us. So the intent behind this particular webinar is to make you a bit more familiar with BABoK, remove some uncertainties or doubts about BABoK, and take some questions from you. So I would like to restrict myself to about 30, 35 minutes of speaking and then keep 20, 25 minutes for answering your questions. So please feel free to ask me any question, any doubt that you have on BABoK. Even you can ask me on other standards as well. So I have completed all 7 certifications from IIBA. So I should be in a position to answer most of your queries. If I can't, then I'll come back to you. And I'll make a note of it, and then I will come back to you. So this is something we just did. So I'm glad so many of you joined from so many places, which is a pleasure to interact with. And I'm glad I have interacted with students from about 95 countries. So so I keep telling my colleagues, so wherever I go, I should be able to find one of my students. Okay, so good. So congratulations on taking this important step. Trust me, the training program and certification make a big difference to our students' life. Many of our students have found uh, a much better salary, going up to 100% sometimes, much better roles within their organization, being much more confident about the work that they do post this training and certification. So it always helps. I have no doubt that getting trained and getting certified will make a difference to your work career, branding. So remember, this certifications work like a brand enhancer for you. And an improved brand can give you 20-25% leverage pretty easily. No? All customers want branded products. Similarly, all companies want certified BAs. So this is what I would like to do with you today. So take you through a little bit of a history of BABoK, how it got developed, what was the context. Because if you understand the context of BABoK, it becomes a lot easier for you to read and understand BABoK. So that's my intent. Not to teach you BABoK, but basically set the context around BABoK so that when you start reading BABoK or you look at some study guide, material, or BABoK itself, you will find it a lot easier to understand. And of course, take any questions that you have on BABoK or any other IIBA certification as such. Also, remember, we do have an offer for you. So you will be able to get $50 worth additional benefit that we will announce at the end of the webinar. I trust some of you might have seen BABoK and gone through BABoK a little bit. Um, I'll skip our intro because most of you would know about us, or otherwise go to our website and figure out. We are a dedicated IIBA service provider, so we train the most number of certified professionals in a year. Almost for the last 3 years, we have been number one in that particular category. And I'm quite happy that we have already crossed 1930 certified professionals. And I'm hoping in a couple of months' time, we will hit the 2000 mark, which was goal for us for this year. And maybe we will hit it in October. So we'll still have 2 months left. Again, just my intro, so I just want to skip it. I have already told about myself. Okay, so now let me ask one interesting question to you. Those of you who have taken a look at BABoK and have started reading BABoK, what has been your experience with respect to BABoK? Do you love it, enjoy it, easy to read, difficult to read? How is it? A lot of information? Okay, very good. Okay. Salj, uh, have you been through BABoK anytime? Okay. A lot of information. A lot of information. Okay. Uh, Rana says, I'm preparing now for CBAB exam. Of course, BABoK is the guidebook for all IIB certifications. No? Not all, at least the core certifications. ECBA, CCBA, CBAB. BABoK is the core guide. Very wordy, organized well, very dry, okay, difficult to read, very exhaustive, okay, remember, difficult to remember. Yeah, doesn't always match up with my organization's approaches. Pretty well, I can understand coding. Okay, not easy to comprehend. Yeah, okay. So I will just tell you one interesting reply I got to this question from one of our past students. So this gentleman came from Sudan, one of the African countries, and he said, Ellen, the night I don't get sleep, I open BABoK and start reading. Okay, and that will make me sleep. So I realized that BABoK can be a bit of a dry read as such. It's a very condensed, large document. So I did a count of words in BABoK. It's more than 200,000 words. So it's a lot of content. And obviously, without a context, it becomes even harder. No? For me, my ideas and my understanding of BABoK has changed over a period of time, to be very frank. Because when I took BABoK test, maybe 12, 13 years back, I understood it in one way. Okay, because I went literally on the name of the book, no? Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. Then it created a lot of questions in my mind. Why it is written like this? Why it is written like that? Then I got a clarity about 2.5 years back that this is how BABoK has been designed. And this is what it is talking about. It's in fact very little about business analysis. Okay. Let me just be very blunt. Okay. This is a wrong name given to a book. It is not business analysis body of knowledge. Okay. People can question me saying, Ellen, you're teaching this book. You have got so many students certified. How can you say that? Okay. And the problem is not with me. The problem is with the industry, how we do things. And especially with the software industry, where we have a strong tendency to drop middle words. So when we use the word enterprise architecture, what we actually mean is enterprise IT architecture. And obviously, enterprise IT architecture is a part of enterprise architecture, but it is not enterprise architecture. Similarly, what you study in BABoK is one piece of business analysis, but it is not complete business analysis. And that's where so much confusion exists in the market when you try to ask, what does a business analyst do? Sometimes you'll get a very strange answer saying, oh, business analysts work with SQL, Excel, Tableau. We don't consider them as business analysts, okay, from a BABoK perspective. No? It's BABoK has absolutely no connection to SQL, no connection to Tableau, nothing. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand where from this book is coming and what it is really talking about. So you may be surprised, no? Okay, so obviously, although we called it as a business analysis body of knowledge, which meant it covers a lot of content about business analysis. Again, watch the word knowledge. Okay, it's about knowledge, information. It's not about practice. So it's a little less practical guide. I wish someday we write a guidebook on practicing business analysis, but it's more of a kind of a collection of knowledge areas, tasks, and techniques rather than giving you a practice guide which you can follow to complete your business analysis, some part of business analysis. Okay. We also call it as orange book because the book cover is orange and it has a lot of orange color inside the book. Okay. So obviously it has a lot of tasks. All of you would understand. There are 30 tasks and they are combined into 6 knowledge areas. There are 50 techniques, name techniques, but in actual it's 91. So there's a lot of content on techniques as well. There is also a vocabulary, which is pretty good, nice. And we do have a study guide that we created for our students, which is almost 10% of BABoK. So it's like you read 10%, but you can get 95% essence of BABoK. Because we always felt it's too verbose. No? So a lot of people have said already it's very verbose. And in my personal opinion, BABoK should have been a document about 200 pages at most. In fact, V2 was about 200 pages. And suddenly in V3, we made it from 200 pages to 450 pages. So we kind of doubled up a standard. in just one revision. Okay. Now, this is where I want to bring your attention to what is BABoK all about. So, when you look at business analysis, it has many flavors. No? So, it has a flavor of strategy, it has a flavor on cybersecurity, it has a flavor on product ownership, it has a flavor on data as well. Okay. So, when somebody is saying business analyst, the person actually could be business data analyst. Okay. Similarly, the people who created BABoK, they actually came from the requirements analysis field. Okay. So this is essentially RA-BOK. That's a better way to call this book. You should call it as requirements analysis. Maybe I would have also called it as RM-BOK, requirements management body of knowledge. Keep that in mind. It's largely about requirements management. So if you bring that focus into the book, it becomes so much easier for you to read the book. Okay, so keep that in mind. And of course, you may question why software requirements management became the focus of the book. So that's what it is. It is about software requirements management. So let's understand. Over last 50 plus years, if you take a look, companies across the world have realized already that software can be a powerful enabler of business. Software can reduce cost of doing business. Software can help us to go and attract markets and clients. We are a very small company. Okay, so if you see, uh, sorry, 1 second, I think, good, I think. Are you folks able to see me or no? I think you should be able to see me. Don't worry. Okay, um, so the companies were developing. Somebody has logged in my account. Kriti, can you please drop off? You have taken over my place. You would trust. I can't hear you, Kriti. She is my colleague. I think she has logged in using the same account. Ah, sorry. Thank you. Maybe she was trying to do something with the meeting room or something. I'm sorry. Okay, back to the webinar. So the need for developing good software has been increasing over a period of time. And when we did software, we had an concept called an SDLC, which many of you might understand. So we started with the planning related activities. Then we moved into requirement side of the story because every software application needs requirements to be developed. Then, of course, we had design, development, testing, implementation. Those phases continued from there. So this piece of requirements fell into a group of people who were called in many names. They were called business analysts because these people were interacting with business. So they were trying to understand the requirements from business side. So that's how the name business analyst became very popular. Sometimes they may be also called requirements analyst, software requirements analyst. Sometimes they may be called requirements engineer, which is a very popular word in Europe. Somehow Europe loves the word engineering much more than Americans love about engineering. So that's the piece of work that fell into this group of people. And most of the people who wrote BABoK, they came from this background. That's why you see a very strong software requirements management flavor in BABoK. Okay. So obviously, let's take a look at the BABoK evolution. It started with a committee being formed in 2004. In 2005, the first version came. In 2006, there was a major upgrade to 1.6. In 2009, it became 2.0. So I took my sleep app on 2.0 in 2012, 13 time frame, if I remember well. Then in 2015, the version 3 was released, which is the big version. Now, if we look back the world in this time frame, what was the dominant software development methodology? Many of you might have worked in that time frame as well. If some of you are a little old, not very sure, waterfall. Okay, what Michelle says is right. So, obviously, people who wrote BABoK, they obviously had worked very strongly in waterfall. Agile was coming in. I'm not saying Agile wasn't there, but Agile was pretty much in infancy. To some extent, it had come. But by 2012, 13, when the book was being authored, because you have to take a review, publish, it takes time. So the major dominant flavor remained waterfall. Although BABoK talks about agile, but the best way to understand BABoK is to understand that it's written for a large custom software application development project. So these words you keep in mind. Large custom software application development project. It's not about product. Okay. It's not about product development because at that time, product development was much smaller piece of the ecosystem. Products became very popular maybe last 5, 10 years, I would say. Before that, products were not that very popular. Not many products existed, and companies developed a lot of software for themselves. Okay, so this is the question. Obviously, we were dealing with waterfall, and that's why some of you may actually find today when you read BABoK and try to apply it to your workplace, you will find differences because the world has moved. And ideally, by this time, we should have created another version of BABoK because it's already 9 years. No, 9 years is a long time, and especially in software when things are changing so frequently. But anyway, a lot of content will still be applicable in terms of techniques. They're pretty much applicable. A lot of tasks with respect to stakeholder management will also apply. A lot of tasks about elicitation will apply. But the planning process has gone through a major restructuring between waterfall and agile. So when you read BABoK, please make sure that you are understanding this distinction between waterfall and agile. So I'm going to show you a couple of mind maps that will help you to get a good grasp of BABoK. Um, okay, so the first mind map I'm going to show you is the knowledge area map. Hmm. Um, so I wrote it as BABoK. You could also call it as business requirements management BRMBoK or simply RMBoK. Okay, or you could call it as software requirements management BoK. Some name you can give, but maybe it becomes little large. SRM BoK is also pretty much okay. Software requirements management body of knowledge. So first, look at the first knowledge area, which is BA planning and monitoring. Again, instead of reading it as business analysis planning and monitoring, please read it as requirements planning and monitoring. How do you plan to get requirements? Who are the stakeholders from whom you will get requirements? What are the other sources from where you can get requirements? How do you plan to change requirements during the project life cycle? So all that planning piece happens here. So instead of calling it as BA planning and monitoring, in your mental model, keep it as requirements planning and monitoring. Or you could also call it as business requirements analysis, planning, and monitoring, which is okay. Then the second knowledge area, if you see, I have added a couple of words here. So read this as requirements elicitation and stakeholder collaboration. Okay. So obviously people will say elicitation is always about requirements, so I don't want to write it. It's up to you. But mostly you are trying to elicit requirements and collaborate with your stakeholders. That's the intent of that knowledge area, so which is fine. Then the third knowledge area, if you observe, requirements lifecycle management, I have no problem with that. And I actually have put it as green. The only thing that I would like to communicate to you that sometimes we'll think that requirements lifecycle management is part of project lifecycle. We will get that kind of an idea in our mind. Actually, requirements lifecycle management is a much longer activity, and it is something that should happen at the enterprise level. The moment a company is born, requirements are born. till the time the company dies, requirements will be there. So your requirements life cycle can be 1,000 years. Think like that. There are companies which have been existing for 1,000 years, and for them, the requirements would have survived from the beginning of the birth of that company, and that company is still continuing. So some requirements might be valid even today. Think like requirements like managing your customer data, managing your revenue numbers. These are evergreen requirements. No, they never go away. So that's why I always keep that in mind. Although we kind of look at a project level and we think of project requirements. So, so project requirements are some of the requirements that the enterprise has. We're trying to automate it, do something about those requirements. So keep that in mind. Requirements lifecycle is at the enterprise level and in the project level as well. The fourth knowledge area, that's where I had maximum difficulty when I was studying BABoK. Because I came from a consulting background, and for us, strategy is like holy grail. So if you are a strategy consultant, you are considered as the topmost consultant, being paid very heavily. You would have heard the names of McKinsey, BCG, Bujal and Hamilton, Bain. So these are all strategy consulting firms. So I had a very different picture about strategy. Strategy, we always used to think what the company should do. That's strategy. Should the company get into AI? Should the company get into a new market? All kinds of things comes into strategy, like what the company should do. Here, it is not about that. It's all about requirements implementation strategy. How do you plan to implement requirements? Again, throughout BABoK, whenever you hear the word strategy, you can interchangeably use the word roadmap. Okay. Roadmap is part of strategy, but it is not strategy. That's where the problem comes. No, sometimes we are equating the parent with the children and only one child element. The strategy can have many things. No, if you're looking at a product strategy, for example, a product can have a roadmap. A product can have a pricing strategy. A product can have a promotion strategy. So many things can come into strategy when you are looking at a product strategy. But somehow within BABoK and many of the IIBA frameworks, the strategy gets replaced with the word roadmap, or rather, roadmap is called as strategy. So this is again about requirements implementation roadmap. So obviously, you can see how many times I'm actually using the word requirements throughout these knowledge areas because that's our primary focus in the BABoK guide. Then the last knowledge area, which is called solution evaluation, you can read it as solution, performance evaluation, and improvement. That's the focus area for that particular knowledge area. So at the end of having all these requirements planned, collected, developed, we would have a solution in hand. Either we have built or we have purchased something from the market based on our requirements. So how is that solution performing? Is it performing well? Can it be improved? That's what goes into the sixth knowledge area. Okay. So at this time, probably I would like to take some questions on these knowledge areas. If there is any question on the knowledge area, no? All good? Okay. So also let me tell you, just because I have been a bit critical about BABoK, it does not mean it does not have value. It still has tremendous amount of knowledge, techniques, tasks. Some of the tasks require some modification. Essentially, we should move away a little bit from a waterfallist way of thinking to an agile way of thinking. We do have agile in BABoK, but the emphasis on agile is little less. So we have to emphasize agile more and put waterfall a little bit in the background because waterfall is giving way to agile. Okay. So that's the major thing. But otherwise, 80% of BABoK is still valid, still quite helpful when you are trying to do elicitation, requirements analysis, modeling. Quite valuable content is still there within BABoK. Then what we try to do is to create a mind map for you where we have brought down from the 6 knowledge areas to the tasks within the knowledge areas. So in this map, you will see something called a business requirement. Obviously, we start with some kind of a business need. And then we do have a planning activity phase. And in this, you will find certain things which are rectangular, which are tasks. And you will find some things in circles, which are basically outputs, which can become input to the subsequent task. So each of these knowledge area is marked in different color so that it's easy for you to visualize them, understand them. Some of these tasks are serial in nature, parallel in nature, sorry. So these can happen almost at the same time, simultaneously, whereas some of the tasks you'll find they're more done in a serial fashion, which means you don't conduct elicitation without preparing for elicitation. Okay. Then similarly, again, when you come to requirements lifecycle management, you can see that many of these tasks can be parallel. And when you come to RAD, it again becomes more serial. So some tasks, and of course, some of the tasks can be switched around a little bit. From our drawing perspective, we might have shown a bit more serial nature in the map. But again, remember, tasks are not linear. That means you don't have to follow 1 to 30 like the way we have projected. You can do some switching between the tasks within the knowledge area. Maybe we can do 28 and 29 parallelly. It doesn't stop you from making them parallel. Similarly, verify and validate, you can do with them parallelly. Okay, just that the diagram would have become very difficult to draw when we try doing so many switching. And this diagram itself took us about a week's effort. So it took some time for us to really kind of think through and put a map which is helpful. It's not necessarily perfect, but we still find this map very, very helpful. So you can take a print of this map and keep it with you and kind of take a look at it and try to understand what BABoK is trying to communicate to you. Then we also tried one more unique thing at Adaptive, which is to align the techniques to knowledge areas. Because there are so many techniques, in BABoK. And I think we as business analysts love techniques because techniques can make our work quality much better. So we had to teach all these 91 techniques. So we said, okay, rather than doing it in that way, let's kind of group techniques along knowledge areas. Because what we feel and what we have seen also, certain techniques tend to contribute more to a particular knowledge area. That's one reason. Two, we also find a lot of commonality among techniques. Like, say, for example, if you are looking at elicitation technique, within that collaboration type of technique, within that group-based techniques. So if you look at brainstorming, workshop, focus groups, and collaborative games, almost all of them follow a very similar execution pattern. Like the way you will run a brainstorming session, open it, discuss, find, organize the findings, close. It's very similar to the way you will do workshop, focus groups, or collaborative games. There is some minor difference. I'm not saying that they're very identical, but there's a lot of commonality that can come. So when we wrote the study guide, we tried to find these commonalities and avoid repeating same thing again and again. So that way we can reduce the content that somebody has to read while trying to understand BABoK. So I trust all of you know a little bit about Adaptive. So I'll just take 2 minutes to introduce what we do. I believe all of you already know. And after that, I'll open the session for your questions. So obviously, as an organization, we focus on IIBA certification preparation trainings. So our focus is to get high quality content to our students, have expert mentors, um, design a method that works, and we're quite happy that it is working because we already have got about 1930 students completing certification. And I think, again, as I said, it may be 2000 in next couple of months' time. We also have continuous mentoring programs. We have interview support projects as well. So a lot of things, which is a little beyond certification as well, but all focused on business analyst domain. So our programs come with three guarantees, like guarantee to success. So there's certain provision to take your retake fees. So if you don't pass with us, we are contractually bound to pay the retake fees for you. Our programs are guaranteed to run. So we haven't canceled any program in last 6, maybe 5 years plus. I don't think we have canceled any session. And of course, there is a provision for money back as well. So these are my colleagues who teach at Adaptive. Laura Patton is bit on sabbatical, otherwise rest all are all active. So typically I and Victoria, we do the Asia Pack sessions every month. I do contribute a little bit to US session as well, whereas the US session is largely run by Laura, Tom, Victoria, and we have one more new trainer who has joined, but not Patricia, Olivia Hampton. So she is the chapter leader for, I think, Florida or something. So she is one of the new trainers that we have on board. But we are very selective about whom we have as a trainer within Adaptive. So some of you may be keen to interact with some of the past students. You can find their names on our list, and you can always go and search for them on LinkedIn and reach out to them and discuss about anything that you wish to discuss, or you can take some feedback about us as well. This is again an interesting book. I would strongly recommend. Has a lot of sample questions and a lot of info on exam itself. And there are a lot of freebie resources on our LMS portal as well. So this is the coupon code that you can take a note of. And if you buy anything within next 1 week, you get 1 month extra access. So typically our products are 6 months access. So with this code, you can make it 7 months without any extra payment. Good. So that's what we do. Okay. And the final slide. Um, so as I said, the best way to reach us is through our customer success email ID, which is cs@adaptiveus.com. We do have a toll-free number as well, +1 877 872 2860. So this is where I will stop and I will take your questions now. So please feel free to ask any question. Uh, then I would be happy to answer. Okay. So one of you have asked, someone anonymous, exam prep, please. What is that you are asking for in terms of exam preparation? Typically, for exam preparation, the best way to go about it is to attend a live session because the live session has a lot of interaction with the faculty. They will explain the topics very well to you. And what we have observed is people who join the live sessions typically complete the certification 3 to 6 months early. So if you're not in a hurry, like you want to take the certification after 2 years, then possibly you don't have to take the live training, but otherwise it helps. And also remember, the further you delay your certification goal, you're also denying opportunities that may come your way. And I'm not bragging or anything. I have heard from students, I I couldn't apply to that job because that job demanded I being a CBAP. And when there is a requirement that the person should be a CBAP, uh, you can't apply, or that's what will happen. So that's why we say completing the certification in a stipulated time. I'm not saying you can do it in 1 week. That something doesn't happen, but it's definitely possible between 3 to 4 months time frame. Okay. Uh, Maria, could you please repeat what you said for step 5? I didn't get that question. What is step 5? The knowledge area 5 or something like that? Is that right? Okay, so I'm glad somebody said that this makes me think of the 6 knowledge areas differently. Definitely, because I struggled with the knowledge areas for quite some time. Then, over a period of time, by reading BABoK so many times, now I realize, yeah, this is where it is coming from. Definitely, I will ask one of my colleagues to send this presentation to all of you. Don't worry. And the session is being recorded. So once the recording is done, it will come to you as well. Okay, some of you have asked for exam prep process. So let me do one thing. Let me pick up one more webinar I might have done on exam preparation. Not here. Maybe I haven't done many exam prep webinars this year. So maybe I'll go back to 2023 and see if I did something with IIBA. No, not this one. Webinars. Something I must have done. Data visualization questions. Case questions. Webinar data models. Yeah, for some time I haven't done actually a webinar on exam preparation. Huh, very strange. Okay, maybe one more year back. Let me see if I get something on exam preparation. IIBA. I'm not getting, but typically it's a six-step process that you can follow. The first step is most important, which is to make up your mind. That's where most people make a mistake. Unless you make up your mind, nothing is going to happen. So first step, make up your mind, join a course, get through the study guide question banks. So once the course is over, spend some time on the question bank. And then we do support office hours, so join the office hours. And once you complete the chapter-based questions, go through the simulations. If you're scoring well in the simulation, that means you're pretty much ready to go for the exam. Apply to IIBA. That takes about a week's time to get the application approved. Then you are ready to sit for the exam. That's it. Okay. Then let me see here. Okay. Okay. I tried to, how long is a live session? It depends on the program that you're going through. ECBA is 16 hours of core training, then 12 hours of office support. So that's 28 hours of interaction with the faculty. For CCBA, it becomes 8 hours more. So that's 36 hours. And for CBAP, it becomes 8 hours more. So that makes it 44 hours of live interaction with the faculty. All the sessions are recorded, like we are recording this session, so you can actually watch the session recording later as well. Some tips to crack. Okay. If you are already familiar with BABoK, ECBA should be easy. It's not that hard. The BABoK familiarity is what we expect in ECBA. So here also, let me make one interesting point for you, which I missed in the slide. Those of you who are going for IIBA certification, if you have been trained, you have the resources already from someone, you can buy the exam voucher at a little discount with us. So IIBA does permit us to give the vouchers at a slight discount. So for CBAP, it can be as high as $84, which is quite good. For ECBA, I think it's $34. But why lose money? No, it's the same product that you get, whether you go to IIBA or go through us. But the exam vouchers are a little cheaper when you buy through us. Okay. One of you have asked the question, does IIBA change the questions of the CBAP exam? Yes, it does. It's actually in question pool from which questions are picked up from for a particular student. So obviously student A and student B are likely to get quite different questions. Because say out of 1,000 questions, you're only facing 120 questions. So somebody else, you may have 10, 15 questions which are similar, but the remaining questions can be dissimilar. Hmm. Wow. Miruna has one question. I talked about knowledge areas and tasks, and what about elements in BABoK? That's one interesting question. Elements are almost like subtasks. Okay, people may treat it differently, call it in different names. But what I have understood is you can actually almost make every element a subtask, and subtasks are covered in the exam as well. But here is one more tip, let me tell you. For all exams, the entire BABoK is not needed. So for ECBA, you actually have two exclusions. Okay, let me start. For all three standards, ECBA, CCBA, CBAP, there is one chapter which is excluded, which is called perspectives. So that's about 80 pages of content, which is not there in the exam. Then for ECBA, two knowledge areas are excluded: strategy analysis and solution evaluation. Again, some more cut. For CCBA and CBAP, as per theory, underlying competencies are not there, but sometimes we hear one question coming from that area as well. So it's a short chapter, so no harm in reading it once. Okay. I sat for CBD exam last year, had 4 out of 6 domains. Uh, yeah, Daniel, book a call with one of our CS agents, CS executives. They will help you. And anyway, our programs come with success guarantee, so you go with a lot more peace of mind. Okay. Uh, how closely aligned are the mock questions? I will say plus minus 10%. No? See, we don't have access to IIBA questions, so we prepare our own questions. And it must be good, no? Otherwise, we would not get 800 CBAPs. I'm not talking of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. It's 800 CBAPs already. Okay. So I'm quite confident that it's something good we have done. Otherwise, so many CBAPs, it's difficult to produce. And let me tell you, CBAP is indeed a hard exam. It's much harder than PMP as well. That's what I've heard. People who have taken PMP and CBAP, they find CBAP to be a little harder than PMP. Ah, okay. Alan has a question saying, do you think perspectives? Perspectives is good to read, understand, no harm. It is helpful, but not from the exam perspective. In the exam perspectives, don't. And whether I like the requirements classification schema, I don't have a problem with the schema as such. Although I believe there are many ways to classify requirements. No, it's not only one way. We tend to emphasize um, one way of requirements, like business requirement, stakeholder requirement, solution requirement. It still makes a lot of sense from a development perspective, but it also could be classified based on the source. Like, is it coming from government? So that's a regulatory requirement, and obviously, regulatory requirements are very important to honor, because if you don't honor regulatory requirement, you are in trouble. Stakeholder requirements coming from standards. So requirements can also be classified based on the source that you are getting the requirement. So maybe we should have talked a little bit about other classification schemas as well, rather than just sticking to one schema and treating it like the God schema. Hmm. Sarmista says, where can I find the latest version of BABoK? If you become a member of IIBA, you can get the version of BABoK on IIBA site. You can also buy it on Amazon, but I would always recommend be a member, because you get not only get BABoK, you get many other books as well. Two, you also get a good discount on your exam. So leverage that. No, one membership, many benefits. Muthu Kumar has one question. Is there an easy way to memorize input and output diagram? It is not required. That's a bad way to study BABoK. It is not required for input output diagrams are not required. Okay. Ahmad has a question. Should you go for CBDA or CBAP? CBAP definitely has a much better brand visibility. No doubts about it. But if you are looking at data analytics as a career, CBDA is also a good standard, because it's very focused on data analytics. So we typically say at least do ECBA so that you have some broad understanding of business analysis. Then you do extensions. You can do after that CCBA, CBDA. And that's the thought process actually IIB is contemplating, that to do any other certification, you must be an ECBA. So start as an ECBA, but that scheme has not yet been approved. I hear about it, but I don't think it is going to be approved very soon. But I would prefer that approach. Have basic understanding of business analysis, then go into extensions. Uh, Kisa has asked what is ECBA voucher. I think it's 300 USD. It's 300 USD. But if you're in Canada, there could be some local taxes as well. But for non-Canadian students, it's $300. Okay. Woody has a big question. I will take a note of this question and reply to you in email, Cody, because it will take me some time. One of you has asked how difficult it is to score 70%. It's not that difficult. If you have studied for 60 hours, you should pass ECBA. As long as your conceptual clarity is there. So build conceptual clarity, understand the vocabulary, you should be through ECBA. Mike has asked which sections are included in testing. I told you which sections are not excluded. So perspectives are not there for any exam out. For ECBA, strategy analysis and solution evaluation is not there. Remaining are in plan. For CCBA and CBA, underlying competencies are not there in the exam. So the remaining knowledge areas, techniques, vocabulary, they are part of the exam. Wow. Benjamin says, I passed my CBAP exam after taking CBAP training. Wow, very good. I'm glad. Okay. Thank you, Benjamin, for coming here. Even after completing CBAP, mostly people who come here are those who are planning to go for some certification. Uh, Razel has asked about non-BA core competence. I haven't really seen many, but I think BSCCM is something interesting concept, although I find it little hard to apply. It's like a force fit that we try to do. In our study guide, we haven't really put so much emphasis on CCM. So most of the questions will come from tasks and techniques. Please remember, because when we were creating questions for IIBA, we were asked to map it to a task. So that's where tasks get a lot of priority. Uh, Techniques are included in the task. That's how they also come into the picture. But BSCCM, I'm not so sure about how much emphasis is there in the exam. Maybe Benjamin can tell. Benjamin, did you see any question on BSCCM? I can ask my other colleagues also, those who have written CBAP recently, because I wrote long back. I don't remember now. Okay. Uh, Good. Then, what is our CBAP training fee? It's best answered by our customer success team. You please speak to them. I would rather focus on the content, like the knowledge part of the story. I'm responsible to do that piece. Okay. One of you have asked how many months of study? It could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Some people take a little bit more time as well. But I personally believe 3 to 6 months is a reasonable enough of time to complete any of the certifications, not only CBAP or ECBA or CBDA. Anything you can complete in 3 to 6 months' time, if you just have the plan properly. And if you go to Thinkific, you will also find the plans. They're available to you at no cost. Take a look at the plan and work according to the plan. Good. So I think I have answered almost all the questions that came in the chat, not the chat, the Q&A one. Any further question anybody would like to ask? No? Okay, then I can do one thing because I did not ask. Uh, oh, okay. Benjamin is planning to go for cybersecurity. Interesting field. All I personally believe every certification is a learning opportunity. That's it. When you read cybersecurity, you get certified, you learn about cybersecurity. Data analytics is again an interesting field, and in general, BAs are a little bit more broad skilled professionals. We are not very narrowly skilled professionals. That's why BA is also someone who can become a consultant a little bit later if you want to become a consultant. Okay, then let me read this one. Cody says, I failed in my first attempt at CCBA. Okay, from the courses I had to do, there's no way to practice. Questions, okay, we're aimed to make sure that we selected best answer. Yeah, practice questions, the ones I did find were not remotely closed. I can understand. Um, I think sometimes it happens, Cody. In spite of your best intent, things don't go our way. But I am quite happy that so many of our students have completed CCBA as well. Just to give you an idea how many CCBA students are there, we actually enlist almost all of them, those who tell us. But sometimes they don't tell us, so we can't know unless you guys come back and tell that I have passed the exam. So here is CCBA certified list. I haven't tracked CCBA that well because not too many people go for CCBA. But still, let me see how many people. It's 183. It's not bad. It's going to be 200 very soon. No, it's not that bad. But CBAP and ECBA both tend to do much better. Like CBAP is already 800 plus. I think ECBA should be about 650. Let me see how many ECBA. Yeah, 650, 648, almost quite close. Uh, because we track these numbers very carefully at Adaptive because this is our pride, no? So many students have done work with us. They have been successful. They have found new jobs. They have gone to new countries. Um, these are proud moments for any training institute. Okay, good. So I think I tried to answer most of your question. One of you have asked, should I buy heart Baba? That's a futile attempt. It's too big to memorize. And I have pretty bad memory. And in spite of that, I have passed all 7 exams. So don't rely on your memory. Rather, focus on your understanding. What is that the book trying to communicate? If you get that right, usually the exams will not be that hard. Okay. So focus on clarity than memorization. That's what I will keep telling to all our students. And that approach seems to have worked reasonably well. Okay, good. So I think if there are no further questions, I thank you all for joining us today. I will again show the coupon code to you. So some of you, if you would like to leverage the coupon code, please do so. Uh, this is the coupon code page. Uh, and thank you all for taking time out today and joining us. I wish all of you good luck with your certification preparation, and hopefully, we would get an opportunity to interact with each other in some forum, some way or another. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day and bye bye. Thank you, Tatiana.